We're rolling.
Yeah. Hold on. What's the name of our podcast?
Is that light on? That light's on. Fish Files.
Fish Files.
Yeah. You can rebrand it, or you can have the short ones on line too. So we're actually rolling, so we should start. But I'll say like 3, 2, 1, and then we'll start so I can edit all this stuff out.
Yeah.
So we're gonna vape on it?
Yeah, I think so. Just a little.
Cool. Hey, look, as it's getting dark, I can see our reflection through the window.
Yeah.
Anyway. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Alhamdulillah.
Cut, edit.
All right.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, action. Welcome to the Fish Files podcast. My name's Sam Fish, and today is officially video episode number 1. I've done almost a dozen episodes that in future, if you subscribe, I might be able to release them to you. They're audio only. This is going back almost 3 years ago. And actually my guest today, Sohail, was one of the guest speakers.
That was a while ago.
That was a really good episode. I love it. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So
do you have an alias name, or you want to go with your full name? What do you want to do? This is the first episode, so we're allowed to make a bit of mistakes. I'm just rusty.
Stage fright.
I think the audience will.
It's all right, guys. We'll get used to this.
Authenticity.
Yes. This is obviously unscripted. We are just sort of going at it.
We've been talking about this for 6 months now.
We have been. We've had some ideas, and we've decided to finally crack on with it. So just hang in there with us as we get the hang of this. Well, as I get the hang of this. Fish has been doing this for some time, so he has a bit more experience. But I will eventually get there. So
just to give him some props, he's you guys call it founder or principal lawyer for Imperial Legal. The signs, that's what I'm looking over here. The signs over here. We actually, Sohail and I share an office space. I run digital marketing and also a business coaching and business consultation business.
And I run a law firm which primarily focuses on commercial litigation, family law, and crime. And we do a bit of conveyancing. So if you have
commercial is what you said?
Commercial litigation. We do a little bit of commercial law, reviewing contracts and leases and things of that nature. But we like to fight a good fight. So we do mainly commercial litigation, get up in court and go to battle for you.
And his slogan, again, I'm looking at the sign, it's we take your case personally. I just overheard him a couple of days ago getting more mad than his client about something that they were wronged by. And when he hung up the phone, I said, hey man, I love your slogan. It really relates. So if anyone needs a good lawyer, click the link below. We have no social set up already, and I'm already acting like, click the link below.
That's it, guys, definitely.
And he'll give you a free consult. I think lawyers
definitely. We usually do. And look, the consults, they usually go for 15 minutes, but I'm in this to help my clients. As our tagline says, we take your case personally. So I'm not sitting there looking at the clock, and as soon as 15 minutes is up, shooing you out of the office. So feel free to get in touch with us for a chat. And obviously, if you have any business needs or social media marketing needs, my good friend here will be more than happy to take care of you and work his magic.
Business coaching, business consultation, and marketing, digital marketing. So that's my forte. So I got a notepad here, nice yellow pad. Actually, Sohail gave me this as a gift. And then I watched the video, one of those short videos on YouTube online, and it was saying about all the different color schemes and how it affects us.
Yeah.
Yellow is a sign of intelligence. And that's why I realized, bloody hell, lawyers always use yellow pads.
Yeah.
And since he gave me this yellow pad, I reckon I've increased my revenue by 30% and my productivity by 50%. Or my ego has just gone up 100% because I feel smarter.
Asterisk, future results may vary.
Do not use with any other coupons.
That's right.
Sorry, batteries not included.
We did debate whether this will be a vaping podcast or not. Decided that it will be for the time being. So
it's nicotine vape, not THC. But I don't know how I feel.
That's probably for the next episode.
It just smells good and it's a bit distracting for me. So try to limit it.
It gives me something to do with my hands as I'm just sitting here. But yes, I'll try my best to keep it.
It does look good.
To accept, and this is like a masterpiece.
From a marketing perspective, that's really nice. Look at it; it's gold, chrome. I get why everyone smokes. The smell's not as good as the other ones you've had.
No, I had a grape. This one is mango.
Doesn't smell like
No,
mango.
these ones don't. There was a HQD that was really good, the grape.
Whoa, let's not promote vape. Otherwise, we get demonetized before we're monetized.
Yes. Well, scrap that.
How funny is it? We're demonetized before we're monetized.
Before we're monetized, yeah.
All right. So I got a few categories listed here. We're just going to go off the cuff. I'll try to get us back to these list of topics if we go off on too many tangents. But I do like the tangents, to be honest. It keeps it more authentic and natural. But topic one that we wrote here is, what's your opinion on Stargate? Is there any ethical dilemma you see? And in case the viewers don't know, let's remind everyone, what is Stargate actually?
So Stargate, and I think it's Starlink, is basically
Starlink, maybe.
Old mate Elon Musk's brainchild of promoting and providing internet via satellite to basically everybody.
Or anybody.
Anybody, yeah. And he's been using it to obviously provide internet access to the people in the Middle East, in Russia or in Ukraine, some of the countries in Africa who don't have the infrastructure to obviously...
It's still called Ukraine.
For the time being.
With respect, obviously. Serious matter.
No, because I think they did try to do it in actual Russia proper as well for a little while. Some of the more regions that don't have access to the infrastructure. But basically, in a nutshell, it's internet provided by satellite, not like the good old NBN waste of money that our government pissed away $6 billion.
Is that what the total fee was?
Yeah.
The problem is when the government's changed, they keep...
This is the tangent we're going to go on. But they started off with, we're going to have fiber to the premise, which is basically cabling all the way to your house. Then they started fiber to the node, which is like up the road. Then they started, we'll do it up the, each suburb will get... And
to the largest fig tree.
yeah, that's right. So and mind you, now they're saying that it's actually useless because the NBN 5G that they have, the wireless, is actually faster and more efficient.
I actually at home have this, shout out to Optus. I know they've been under the pump with a lot of PR in the last year here in Australia, but I have the 4G router. Just plug it into the electricity. I think that's already got the SIM card in it. It's quite fast.
That's what I mean. So that's the same thing that they
and it's not even 5G.
Well,
I on purpose didn't take 5G. That's for the conspiracy podcast that we do after hours. But the 4G version, which is not even the latest, is quite fast. And tech heads tell me that the 5G is probably equal fast to the NBN.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. So
which it's a
ADSL, question. Yeah, ADSL, dial-up, ADSL. Then there was the
We've always had satellite internet though in regional areas.
We've had it in the sense of, I mean, the army has it, but not like Starlink, because Starlink is more commercial. So you basically get to access it, and it's actually pretty cheap because I've had some people in Iran.
They pay for Starlink?
Starlink, you pay for it, so it's like a subscription. Basically, you get the subscription, you sort of log into the router, modem, whatever, and then you get access.
Look, just on that note, I reckon it's a really good idea. Like there was a recent tragic hurricane in the US. Like if people somehow their connections get wiped out or electricity is out.
Mind you, I just remember this before I forget. So what it is, you pay, I think it's $300 USD, don't quote me on this, and they send you a little satellite dish, right, which is your modem. So you basically connect that up, and that's what sort of the satellite dish will then, automatically sort of align itself with the satellite in space, and that's how you get the internet. So you get the little device, you plug it in, you connect it up, it starts searching, it connects to the internet, and that's how you get it.
That's pretty amazing.
So it's pretty handy, pretty easy to use, and pretty easy to I think pretty accessible. But I guess the question of whether
the question here was the ethical dilemma.
Ethical. I mean, look,
if you just try to give internet to people where you're on sovereign soil of a country and you're a private company, then it's a bit of a gray area, because what if they don't approve of it and you just override their request?
Yeah, and that's where the ethical, I think, question comes in is, do we want a private individual or a group of private individuals or private entities, corporations, having that level of access, having that level of control and power? Now, one argument would say that, well, no, people should have access to the internet because that's basically our world square these days. You have access to the internet. That's the flow of information, exchange of information and ideas. And no one government or group of governments should be able to limit that.
I could debate that, but keep going.
But then on the other hand, it's like, well, for example, certain countries have certain rules and regulations, cultural considerations, or for example, similar to free speech, yes, you have a right, but where does that right end? Do people have a right to watch all this
countries
gore?
have free speech. We don't have free speech here in
Yeah.
Australia.
And that's a whole other thing.
That's another episode.
Little side note, we do not have the right to free speech in Australia. You have an implied right, not even an express right in the Constitution, but an implied right to free political speech. That's it.
Just political.
Just political speech. And the reason that it's implied is because we have a representative government, obviously, which is written in the Constitution. And to have that choice and freedom of a government of the people, by the people, for the people, you need to be able to have free political communication.
Wait,
that's the limit.
Is that only if you're in Parliament? Because I remember in legal studies in school, they taught us that you can say whatever you want.
No, so you have parliamentary privilege
against slander.
No. So there's what's called a parliamentary privilege.
That's different.
That's different. So in Parliament, you can basically say whatever you want, and you basically, you get off. There's nothing anybody can do. I mean, Parliament can sort of censor you and blah blah blah, but realistically, there's not much they can do. And I think there was a guy, Jared something, one of the MPs a few years back, decided to get up and read a list of convicted pedophiles because their names were suppressed and everybody lost their mind. But he goes, well, no, people have a right to know. He did it in Parliament under parliamentary privilege.
Did they censor that?
No, they couldn't. And they couldn't do anything.
Where is that list then?
You can look it up online. I'm sure it's still available.
Was in some archives you can probably access it.
This is only a few years ago, so you can, because the Parliament gets recorded, so you can go and look up the
but what on the ABC?
But I mean, what are you going to do though? The thing is, it's only names of people. I mean, you have so many people, John Doe, so many people that have the same surname, so it doesn't really help you in that sense, just having just the name of these people. But he was doing it more to make a point that people are entitled to know, and I think in legal studies I heard like you could just say anything you want, and your words could affect someone to maybe like commit suicide or do something crazy. Yeah. And you're not held liable either. No, if it's in Parliament, no.
So under parliamentary privilege.
Well, I mean, that's next up. in a few podcasts, we do have elections coming up, probably March.
Well, that's on my list of one of our topics, is just to talk about why Australians are not very involved in politics, and it feels like a perfect time to segue into that now. Yeah, because I ask people that always complain to me about different things going on in society. I say, are you even engaged in the political process? Oh, what do you mean? Well, when's the last time you popped in to your local MP's office or wrote a letter? Mm-hmm. You can complain about something as much as you want on Facebook, but that's not really, bridging the gap to get you your needs. So, do you know what I mean? Like, I do know what you mean. I don't have that many friends, but let's say I have 15 friends or acquaintances, for example. I doubt any of those. Yeah. And people watching yourself or your friends and family, who gets that involved in the political process?
It's funny, I've had this talk with a lot of people as well about their involvement in politics. Oh, it's boring. Oh, I just don't care. Oh, nothing's going to change. Well, it may be boring. Cooking and cleaning and things like that are boring. Exercise is sometimes boring, but you do it because it's healthy, it's beneficial. And that's just the way of life. It is a fact of life that we have to be involved in politics, because if you're not involved, then the people up the top just do what they want, and no one's the wiser. Now, to answer your question as to why people aren't politically involved... Can I interject?
I just got a quote that relates. I love the quote that says, I don't know who the author is. Maybe in the comments someone can put it. Again, we're recording this. We're not an existing YouTube page, but soon it'll be uploaded.
Definitely,
there'll be comment section.
So just on that thought, whatever comments you guys have, any comments, feedback, thoughts, we can always incorporate that in the subsequent podcast that we do. 100%. So you always got to start somewhere.
We're going to do at least 2 episodes a week.
Yep.
I think you thought 1, but I just doubled down live. The best quote that I love is the one that says, I wish I knew who it was. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. Yeah. That's beautiful. Look, and that relates
to what
the issues we had with the C word, which I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
Again, we don't want to get demonetized before we monetize.
Talking about the C word, I love American politics, not today's politics, maybe like 100 years ago. So they have these two, one of them that really stuck with me about freedom and liberty. and it goes something like this: those who would trade their liberty for freedom deserve neither liberty nor freedom.
Yeah.
So if you want big daddy government to keep an eye on this, to limit that, to control this, just so you feel safe, and you're giving up your freedoms incrementally, by the American views, 100 years ago, you deserve neither freedom nor liberty, because you have to fight for it, and you have to be able to take that freedom and maintain it, not just give it all up to government just so you feel safe.
That's the problem in Australia is like being here for almost my whole life and love Australia to death. It's, home. But when you go to America, you just feel in the air another sense of freedom. And again, with freedom comes opportunity and freedoms of other people to do things that are not good.
Now, this might
Like
definitely get us demonetized, given a brown guy with a beard is about to say
I
this.
just feel like, just to finish my thought, I just feel like every year, every day, every moment, like just in Australia, more and more of our freedoms are given up, and just the general public, whatever we're at, 26, 7, 8 million now, is just of the opinion that government works good here, so let's just give them this subconscious trust, which I believe that is the start of a big issue for us over the next 50, 100 years, so well after our death. Yeah. And if this surfaces in the future that anyone looks at, you guys can...
We'll put it in a time capsule.
Yeah. You guys will just freeze us with it. And technology changes so much. If we did this 20 years ago, to be like a CD.
I'm going to do that. What do you call it? No, they freeze you. They do it in America. Cryogenics. Yeah. There's people, it's becoming a big thing now. So once we get enough money from these podcasts.
Have you done cryotherapy, by the way, where they're 3 minutes, they just freeze you?
No.
I've done ice plunging, but never cryotherapy. There's a few places that have it. We should try it out once.
We'll definitely,
but yeah, long story short, I just feel like, look, I appreciate that things do work good here. Things are better here. There seems to be a feeling of less corruption. However, somehow I just think we're better at hiding it. And also people aren't vibrationally alert to a lot of it because we're not engaged. We're not monitoring them.
So I have a theory on that, if I may share. Australia loves to bang on about how multicultural we are. And we are.
We're two brown guys.
Where is our multiculturalism, the bulk of it, coming from? The Middle East, Southeast Asia, China, Russia. And
Russia?
Or like the Russian region, the Caucasus, and so you think
all
about
the other areas you said. I don't personally like the term Middle Eastern. I prefer to call it West Asia because that's what it is, right? Yeah. Middle Eastern I find as a derogatory term.
I prefer to call it the Persian Empire, but I mean, we don't want to go into semantics.
But at the end of the day, it's mostly from Asia.
Yeah. And they're coming from, they are coming from dictatorial regimes or regimes that, or cultures, or cultures which do not have
any Western beliefs of freedom.
Any beliefs of our individualized sense of freedom, individualism, self-determination, human rights, economic rights, and social mobility. So then when you have people that come from the Middle East, any of the Middle Eastern countries, Arabic countries, Iranians, Turkish, West Asia, I stand corrected. So they come from that country where there is no rule of law. There is a lot of corruption. There is very limited freedoms, if any. They come to a country like Australia. Now, generally speaking, if you're walking down the road, the police aren't going to stop you because of what you're wearing, because of what you're doing.
That's good.
Even if you get stopped, they're very respectful. Doesn't matter what you've done. You're speeding. Hey, sir, how you going? Have you had anything to do
I generally come across good cops.
Right. Generally, if the government makes a decision that you are unhappy with, whether it's the council, whether it's your local, whatever, the RTA, there's an appeals process. You go, and generally, just because somebody doesn't like the way you look, or just because somebody doesn't like the way you're dressed, doesn't mean that you are denied that service. Mm-hmm. So
we have equality of
generally the public benefits from that, governmental, procedural, and administrative freedom and equality. So then, for a lot of people, like our parents, Well, they come here. What issues do they have? I mean, coming from, someone from my father was politically active. You know what I mean? And when he comes to a country like Australia, you work, you pay your taxes, the roads are done, your rubbish gets collected at the right time. You go and check your mail, like clockwork, usually by 12 o'clock. If you're going to receive a letter, you check your mailbox, you would have received it by then. So there's a system in place that works. And so they compare this system to where they've come from. And somewhere like China. Now, nothing against Chinese people, but for example,
we love Chinese people.
In comparison to
the
system of government, right? The social credit score, the communism, the tax system. So people from there, they come here and the government's not surveilling you. The government's not asking you to fill 100 different forms just to do, basic stuff. So they think, oh my God, Australia is so free.
Yeah,
but then
people think it's free.
You look at the corruption that we have. You look at ICAC, the Independent Commission Against Corruption. Old mate Gladys, I think it was Abaid a few years ago. I mean, so every now and again,
Mike Baird as well, or no?
Mike Baird. There was
came after when he wanted to shut the dog race.
Yeah, there was a couple of Liberals and Labor that have been done.
Barry O'Farrell.
I think he got. At that point, he got crucified. I think for a bottle of champagne, which he didn't.
Bottle of wine.
He didn't declare. Right. So every now and again, these guys will pick a sacrificial lamb, crucify them in public to say, "Look at how good we are. We are fighting against corruption." But
or like Sam Dastyari with some Chinese money or something.
Yeah. So our corruption here is, case in point, we don't have any freedoms. You have enough freedoms when you're squabbling amongst yourselves. Look at Julian Assange, an Australian-born citizen, white as anything, blonde, right? Look at what they did to him. America, the beacon of democracy, they crucified him. The UK, France, Germany, Australia. He was an Australian citizen. He was Australian-born, right?
Obviously, he's free now, and that's great.
He's free now, and that's great. But after more than a decade?
Yeah.
So
imagine as long as done to you.
Exactly. So as long as you are a good foot soldier, you pay your taxes, you don't cause any problems, the government gives you enough freedoms to give you the illusion that you have freedoms. But simple basic rights like fishing, like hunting, like the food that you eat, like the education that you receive.
What about pen license? I had to get a pen license in grade 4 or 5.
And people
I was the last kid to get my pen license, and they just gave it to me because it was the last day of school. We had to put these...
So you got saved by the bell, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you remember, but we would put this thing called a slope card, which is probably politically incorrect now, excuse the pun, behind the piece of paper.
I didn't go to primary school here, so I wouldn't have a clue.
Okay, so I did. And there was anyone that went to primary school in my generation, in the 90s, would probably remember.
You mean the 60s?
Am I that great? And then you would write cursive. Mm-hmm. Again, that word cursive, is it a curse, isn't it? That's a whole different debate. But you would write running writing, and then if your handwriting was good, you would get this pen license.
Yeah.
And I believe culturally, and if you're in I can't remember if it was grade 4 or 5, but you're usually around 10 or 11 at that age. Mm-hmm. Culturally, they're instilling into young children the mentality of permission to do something, license.
Yeah.
And culturally, you get used to that.
Slowly.
So when you just said fishing, I thought, oh yeah, you're right. Most countries around the world just go.
Yeah.
Now again, I think maybe the net fishing shouldn't be allowed because that's not fair.
If you got one, I even get it if you got a boat license and you're going to go deep sea fishing and so on and so forth. But if I
agree with no drink driving, or
100%.
Drink cruising for the boat,
some of those things, licenses are needed because it requires a certain level of skill and knowledge to operate.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to understand in America,
like a car
for example,
license is a good example.
Yeah, they say I have a right to travel. No, as much as I'm a liberal, small L. And I want small government freedom of people to make choices. I wouldn't trust every Tom, Dick, and Harry to jump behind a 2-ton metal driving at 100 kilometers an hour without having some basic knowledge and tests.
However,
to make sure that they know how to operate the vehicle.
I agree with that. And just checkpoint, I'll write this small L down because I want you to elaborate on small L, big L for our audience later, which is great to do. Look, I want to be honest. I'm always open to changing my mind. I change my mind all the time. And I think that's one issue that we have by and large, as a macro social environment or landscape on the internet, is that we think what you think today should be held against you. Like if a comedian said something funny 15 years ago, who cares?
Yeah.
At that time, if no one had an issue, then why are we making a big deal? And that's all part of cancel culture and corporations and other levels of corruption, which I don't want to delve into now. But my point is we should always be open-minded to think. Yeah. And that's what I was taught during school and university, was critical thinking. In university, to get a high distinction grade, you would have to literally, in my business schools or subjects, you would have to agree and disagree with yourself in order to
have both points of view and be able to substantiate both
to further prove your point. And I know I did 5-6 law subjects too as a postgrad. I didn't continue it because of COVID and everything that I've told you off camera. But
I'll make a little small segment spilling the tea on his life. Don't worry.
I did learn really vital legal problem solving skills, which is really good to know how a lawyer thinks for my business future. It's always good to know how to keep your lawyer accountable, obviously, and understand how to interpret legalese a bit better. But we in law, you had to always use the IRAC method. What was that? Can you repeat that?
So it was issue,
IRAC, not
issue,
Iraq.
rule, application
of the rule,
conclusion. So I, issue, R, rule, A, application, C,
case
conclusion.
Study or conclusion?
Conclusion. So you have an issue. What's the issue? Let's just say speeding. Okay, so the issue is you went over the speed limit. The rule or the law, what's the law regarding? So you go to the traffic, Roads and Traffic Act, whatever, you look at the law. The application, so the law says if you exceed the speed limit by 10 kilometers, you've committed XYZ offense, then you apply it. So you apply it, this is the law, this was the scenario, and the conclusion will be you either did go past that speed limit or you didn't.
And that's really good.
That's a very simplified process of...
And when we first started, there was an F before it, which was facts, but then they slowly weaved that out, saying that in law, they don't even look at the facts. They just go in practice.
In practice, it doesn't really apply because a lot of these things get jumbled up together.
Facts can get convoluted.
Facts are convoluted, and each person has a different set of facts and interpretation. So if you have independent evidentiary material that you can rely on, emails, text messages, videos, documents, things like that, you can apply it. But a lot of the times it's he said, she said, and it's about the judicial officer will assess whether you are a trustworthy person and how much weight to give to your evidence. And we don't call it testimony. You don't testify in Australia. You give evidence.
Is that an American term?
It's an American term, yeah.
That's cool.
And a random little American term. We don't call it a prenup. I just had a client contact me about signing a prenup. In Australia, we call it a binding financial agreement. Just a little, for our viewers who like to watch a bit of Suits and Legally Blonde, just some Australian legal terms.
I liked Boston Legal. That was a cool show too.
Suits,
the first few seasons was good.
And then
but Boston Legal
just
was
like
awesome.
Fast and the Furious, they started off as street racers, became international commandos all of a sudden, flying from building to building. Suits as well. First, I think 3 seasons, amazing, really good. I don't want to give any spoilers. It just became repetitive and too much. Like the guy's a lawyer, not Superman. Calm down.
But
anyway,
just to circle back to what we were talking about, I was just saying at university law, then I said I studied business and law. We would argue against yourself to further prove your point. And in law, you got to do that. And I've actually got a little bit of unofficial legal advice from Sohail. And he's annoyed me because he's like, if it was a traffic offense about red light camera or something like that, or if it was about speeding or a business matter. I felt like he was arguing on behalf of the state or on behalf of the other party. And I was like, dude, whose side are you on? He's like, no, I'm not trying to tell you what you want to hear. I'm just trying to tell you how the case is going to be looked as a neutral arbitrator. And that was a good understanding that I had from law, which was a bit different to business. Business, we didn't have a third party arbitrator putting that hat on, but it was still, look, what is your point when you're talking about the ethics of Google buying Samsung or Apple having a monopoly, if that was the case? And you would have to argue both sides. Is there a monopoly? Isn't it? And then you would have to then make your claim on what was stronger. And that's the point, is people can change their mind all the time. But I was talking about something about changing mind, and then I divulged.
You said that it's people. Obviously, we can change our minds, and as we go, as we learn, as we grow.
Yeah, but I believe in, and I forgot what I was trying to say.
I don't know what you. I'm not in your mind. Unfortunately, I'm working on that skill.
This is when Neuralink would be good. I'm
Yeah.
at a point
Yeah.
where when I heard about Neuralink a couple of years ago, I thought that's so effed up ethically. And lately, I'm like, I come up with such good ideas, and by the time I go to write it, my hand can't keep up with my idea, or if I forget to write it down the next day, I
Yeah.
can't remember it.
Look, it's not a topic to delve into in this podcast,
No,
but
I
the
would like to
issue
talk about it
with
later.
these technologies is like, as old mate Oppenheimer would say, the humans have split the atom. Imagine all the fuel, energy, efficiency we could get from it. But what are we using it for? Killing more people more efficiently.
Is that a
The
nuclear
problem
bomb?
isn't, sorry?
With a nuclear bomb?
Yeah. Now we can have, and I mean, the US has nuclear powered submarines that can go basically decades without needing to refuel or resurface and so on and so forth. But, or we can have nuclear propulsion for our spacecraft, but we don't do it. Same thing with technologies like Starlink, Neuralink, microchips, any of these things. They're in and of itself, standalone. I think they're great technological
I
advancements.
definitely am
leaps.
against people reading our minds.
But
That's for sure.
unfortunately, it's the nefarious people who get in control of this information who then will use it for example, electric cars, like self-driving cars. Right now, for example, and I know BMW does this for a fact, and I know Mercedes does this. They have now turned your vehicle purchase into a subscription model. As old mate, what's his name? Klaus Schwab, I think. World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab, yeah, World Economic Forum.
That guy.
You will earn nothing and you will be happier for it.
He
Your Microsoft
looks
used to
so
pay $100,
evil.
$200 for a CD, use it for years. Now it's subscription. Getting to my point about BMW and Mercedes, you want to get a car, you want seat warmers, it's on subscription. You want to use music and GPS navigation, it's on subscription. So technological advancement is good, but they're also using it as a means to control us. With self-driving car, you don't pay your fine, you don't pay your whatever, you didn't send your kid to school, you got to turn on your car. Oh, sorry, Big Daddy government decided you can't drive today.
They do.
The 15-minute smart cities.
I might have been an ABC documentary I watched about China and how some political, I don't know what the term is, activists or descendants, what do they call it when you dissent, how they've been switched off.
Well, look at Canada with the whole C,
pay or whatever, or their systems. You can't do anything. They can't even get on trains and buses and
that's right.
with the retina scanning. So I think technology is moving so fast in the private sector, then governments come and use it, because always the debates with government is we're not trying to control where society goes. We're just experiencing everything like everyone else. And then if there's an issue, we're going to look at it.
Yeah, all lies.
Yeah, well, obviously they have legislation in place and you got negligence and other factors that companies have to take into consideration. But usually the technology comes and then there's some fuck around and then they try to, legislate their way out of it to look good in front of the general public. But just to circle back on what I said before, I said I'm 50-50 and I'm always open-minded to changing my opinion. However, when you said that you are small L and then we're going to talk about big L in a minute, and you made the example about videos, we've all seen the videos online, how people say, I have the sovereign right to move property. My car is my property. I don't require a license when I
am traveling. I am not, mate.
I'm 50-50. And I can ask you, maybe you'll help me think about it a bit further before I make up my mind. Because I get what you're saying, that you need a skill set. We don't want to endanger society and general public, and we need to balance that freedom factor. However, I'm under the understanding a license is only for commercial purposes.
I mean, look,
isn't that true? So you should only ever have the word license in general is for commercial purposes. Just like if we're in business and you sing some jingle, I license that jingle to use on my ads.
Yeah. Well,
isn't that the same thing?
So there's different words can have different meanings, right? So you can have a license in a commercial sense, or you can have a license broadly as a document that denotes your having attained a certain requisite level of skill, knowledge, experience to do a particular thing. Or it can convey a right. So you can have a license to use your Microsoft product, or you can have a license to reproduce something, right? Yeah. Or you can have a license to drive. So one is a permission to use a certain product or undertake a certain task. One denotes your ability and having a certain level of skill. So, your driving license is your skill and experience. Your license to use a product is, you have been given that permission to use that product. So these words can be used differently depending on the context.
Okay.
Now, for example, what these people say about whether it's our sovereign citizens or the
There's
constitutionalists
different categories
in
people,
America,
and some don't
right?
agree with one another.
What they say is, oh
Some
no,
say,
I go by this
some
law.
say sovereign citizenship is an oxymoron, sovereign citizenship, because citizenship doesn't have sovereignty, it's within the system, blah, blah, blah. So I don't want to get caught in the weeds of the terminology, but we've all seen the videos where people said, I don't need to present a license for a stop.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So in
I've
that
seen them in
sense,
Australia as well.
they are absolutely wholly wrong in their approach, because they are misunderstanding the context of whatever it is that they're arguing. So they say, I don't follow this set of laws, I follow this set of laws, right? They fail to understand that the Constitution or common law, which is basically judge-made law, is still made by a human being. It's still a set of facts and circumstances agreed upon by one person and adhered to by everybody else. So you can't say that, oh no, I don't accept the rule or law that I have to have a license because I'm not traveling, or because I'm not this or I'm not that.
Because I'm not trading business with my car.
So
I'm traveling with my property. I'm moving my property.
So that idea
it's a clever thought, though.
Hold on, it's not. But I'll tell you why it's not.
I'm moving property.
I'll tell you why it's not.
To say I'm moving this, why do I need a license to move this?
I'll explain to you. So see how that same person that says, well, I'm not engaging in commercial activities, I don't need a license. So they're accepting that if they were involved in some commercial activity, that they can be, those rules and regulations can be imposed on them. By what power is that rule and regulation being imposed on you if you're doing a commercial activity? By that same token and that same right, that government entity, that group of population, whatever it is, can then impose a right if you're traveling in your private life. If you were saying that I don't have to have a license irrespective of, then that argument would make sense.
I get ya.
But so you're saying that, oh, you have a right to make a law about this, but they're not about this. Well, if they have a right to regulate...
As in, if they said I'm moving 12 apples to deliver to...
Well, the fact, just the mere fact that they accept...
That's business. I did that yesterday. You could ask me, but today I'm just cruising.
Yeah, so the fact that you're giving this entity the power to regulate you if you're doing business, so you accept that this entity has the power to regulate you. So how are you then drawing a difference between, oh, but it's if I was in business? Okay, well, they're regulating your business in one set of rules, they're regulating your private life with a different set of rules.
I don't know enough about it to comment, so I'm going to take your word for it.
No, I'm just saying that whether they have the right or don't have the right is a different argument.
Because you go down a really rapid rabbit hole very fast of what does anything mean. Then you start learning about the Uniform Commercial Code and laws of the seas. And then you realize we're all a bunch of pirates when you go down those rabbit holes.
So the laws of the seas, right?
Because if you're on this land, you have rights to the land. And I know on some areas we allow that in this society that has not tricked, but has a little bit not allowed all the information to be out there for everyone to know what is and what isn't reality. So because hold on, when you're seeking asylum and you're on a boat, right, coming from Indonesia, let's pretend our friend on that video, if you subscribe, we'll send you the audio of our friend who told an amazing story of how he migrated here. I guess you would call it illegally, but legally processed.
Well, technically, there's no, if you're seeking asylum, there is no illegal.
However, that's the thing. So if they catch you on the way, then you're subject to anything that they really want to do, or any legislation that they pass, send you to Nauru or Christmas Island or whatever. But once you step foot here, then you get the laws of the land. So then that's where I see it makes sense what they're saying. We're a whole bunch of pirates.
Well,
Uniform Commercial Code, laws of the seas, rights of the land, then where does human rights come, sovereignty.
You raised a very good point.
And then when you go all down that path, you realize that Indigenous people in Australia still have all the rights. And most of them, I don't know if they're aware.
I just want to go one step back. See how you very accurately said there's the laws of the sea and there's the laws of the land. So we accept that there is a certain set of laws that apply to the...
none of this is fucking on our...
like I said, it's unscripted, so we just go where the road takes us.
I'm interested.
The idea is that people generally accept there is a certain set of rules and laws and regulations that apply. Like they can't imagine the same type of people we were talking about before. Imagine if they say, I adhere to the laws of the sea, but I don't accept the laws of the land.
Well, laws of the sea were written by someone. I just think
But
at
all the
end of
laws are written by someone.
yeah,
That's
but
the
at the end of
point,
the day,
right?
you get to God. Somehow it all comes back to God and our human rights. I don't know how people can believe in human rights that don't believe in God too. I think that they're conflicting ideologies, which we can't probably.
We
delve
can't get
now.
into this, not in this podcast.
I would do a lot of research philosophically from some of the greatest minds over the years,
Yeah.
and bring back as far as we can.
Look,
the
and right now
first laws
we're
of
just
man.
touching. We are surfacely scratching a lot of different topics. Just for it is a starting podcast. We're getting some ideas, bouncing some ideas.
I'll definitely upload it and see if people like it.
Yeah, and look, like Fish said before,
put
definitely
in
give
the
us your
comments what
ideas
topics
if
you
you have
like.
some
We
topics
can
that
research them more.
you're more interested in and you want to hear more about. We can definitely delve into it. Like I said, we're just sort of jumping from topic to topic, just having a little brief chat about the different ideas that we have and our different perspectives. I just want to mention one thing
Let's
before
move off
about
this,
American politics.
Yeah, finish this and let's go into the small L.
One of the best quotes that I have heard from American politics from decades ago now was that.
Tell us that. Good
from-
circle back. I thought you were going to fail that circling back, man. I thought it was all up to me.
No.
We're going to get you one of these, man.
Yeah, so don't worry, I'll bring my
Yeah.
lawyer pad next time.
Well done.
So basically, it goes something along the lines of, from time to time, the roots of the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
Say that one more time.
From time to time, the roots of the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants. So every now and again, every so
I've never
often,
heard that, man.
patriots.
Who's the quote by?
It was one of those.
Can we find
early,
out and put it in
I'll
the comments?
find that. It was one
I'm
of those
gonna write
early,
Beautiful
early
quote.
sort of politicians. I think one of the founding fathers, or it was around that time. So it was a couple of 100 years old.
I watched the play Hamilton, the musical. Maybe it was
Yeah.
Alexander
So-
Hamilton. Who knows?
Right. So, and that's what we have lost. We have lost the ability to fight because the government has given us a few shiny toys, whether it's a new car or a new software or a new game or and we don't want to take on a little bit of hardship because why would I fight or why would I
We
go
need
out of my way?
A little button here. I press green light to say, I don't
Yeah.
want to cut you off, but I just don't want to say something that relates. So sorry, finish your
Tell
thought.
me,
If I put my hand up, let me finish your thought and come back. to
So basically that
it. Look at me, I'm a good little fucking schoolboy with my pen license.
I just one more thing on this. I know that this is a very unpopular opinion, but it's my opinion, and I stand by it. And this is good for you as a marketing individual. One of the best marketing taglines that I have heard, one of the best, and I like to think I'm very well read and researched, was an advertisement by Colt. So Colt, the gun manufacturer, COLT, and their line was, drum roll, God made men, Colt made them all equal.
Yeah.
So
yeah, when I was growing up and really plugged into a lot of the mainstream media, which these days looks very leftist from an American political perspective, because in Australia it's a little bit different.
yeah,
I was all anti-guns and stuff, and then I realized, oh yeah, like there is an argument that guns did make things equal. But then in a controlled society like Australia,
look at
where
what's
there's no
happening in
guns,
Melbourne.
you still feel safe.
Look at what's happening in Melbourne.
But I just want to say,
Let's get to that small L video.
Say your quote one more time, and I want to say another quote, and you tell me if they relate, kind of thing.
Which one? That was it. The
Say it one more time.
Colt one or the other one?
No, not the Colt one.
So from time to time, the roots of the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
I just full visualize that. That's amazing. It's very similar to give them food and circus, and you'll control the masses.
Yeah.
Or if you want to know how to control the masses, give them food and circus.
Yeah, well, that's
Paraphrasing
why you had the gladiators and the Colosseum. I mean, this is humans.
True.
As much as we are complex, and these brains of ours have achieved so much, in a lot of ways, we are very simple creatures. Thousands of years ago, they had the Colosseum.
I think we should
to
change
control
the
the
name of
masses.
the podcast to 50-50, because I'm 50-50 on all of it. Because straight away when you say that, I'm like, oh, NRL now. That's modern day gladiatorship. It's really tough.
You got
brutal
these
sport, but I love it
people
to death. I
earning
know
millions
it's a
of dollars,
distraction, but I love the distraction.
and our nurses are picketing for just a livable wage.
Well, now
your
you sound
teacher-
like a communist.
Well, no, I mean, look, I'm a socialist in the sense
I'm
of,
kidding.
I'm not, but that's the thing.
I'm sharing offers with a socialist.
Yeah.
Should have told me about this, man.
Well, I mean, It's too late
I'm
now.
kidding, I'm
It's
kidding.
too late now. You've been tainted with the
You're
tagline
giving
too,
way
mate.
too much free legal advice for me to want to move out. Don't worry.
But look, getting back to the small L, big L.
Please.
So basically, as a lot of you would know, in Australia, we have a political party called the Liberals, which is capital L.
And it's right-winged in Australia.
And it's a right-wing political party. Now, small L liberal refers to the liberal ideology, which is small government, individual freedoms, basically not unlimited rights for people, but you basically have unlimited rights to self-determination, to economic freedom. You do what you want with your own body, whether that's same-sex, rights, whether it's drug use, whether it's medical treatment, whether it's education. So if I want to smoke a bit of pot, if I want to have a gun, if I want to live, off the land, as long as I am not causing harm,
impeding
to
on
another
someone else's
person,
rights.
yeah, and your rights
that
basically
freedom.
stop where it starts to infringe on other people's rights.
And you can't be a nuisance like call fire in a theater.
Yeah,
Or you
so,
can, or can you?
So, well, look, it really depends. You can, but then you have to deal with the consequences. This is what people don't understand, right? Everyone's like, oh, I have a right to free speech. Yes, you have a right to free speech from the government. So I can say whatever I want, and the government cannot penalize me for my speech,
but not
not society,
fist.
right?
You might say to me, I'm a fuckwit, and I might jab you or jab you.
Well, I mean, I've known you to be accepting of the
I would never
truth. So
jab
if I
you.
did call you that, you just accept it and not punch me. But
and I just look in the mirror and say, I'm a fuckwit.
but yeah, so it's about society. Society doesn't have to accept what you say. You have a right to your opinion. You have a right to say what you want and do what you want, and I have a right to respond to it. Right? Now, for example, let's just say somebody wants to, very extreme example, somebody wants to adopt the Nazi ideology. Well, they're free to do it. And me as a free person, I'm free to do business with you, to have you in my circle of friends, to invite you to my house, to, for example, if you got a Nazi tattoo, a Nazi insignia, whatever it may be, right? And you're sitting in a park, and I walk past and I see you and I sit down and then I notice it, I have a right to get up and walk away looking disgusted. And that might hurt your feelings, but you have a right to your ideology. You have a right, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
And a business can ask you to leave too.
Yeah,
so
right that's being a true liberal. Everybody is free to do as they please, as long as you're not causing harm. Now, some people take this idea of causing harm too far. Your emotional
just on that swastika.
Yep.
That's an old Indian symbol. In India, apparently, I've never been in India, but a friend of mine that went, he said, I saw that symbol everywhere.
Yeah. Look, I mean, even if it wasn't, like we've got this idea that
people feel that relate to that. I don't know. Is that a Hindu symbol?
Look, I'm not too sure myself, but it probably could be something that they have adopted and changed a little bit. It's up for debate.
But we'll cover that in future. Keep going with what you were saying.
So, yeah. And the issue with not causing harm is generally economic harm, damage to property, and that physical damage to person. Just because your feelings get hurt because I say ABC about something, that does not mean under the true liberal ideology, that doesn't prevent me from saying it or doing it. I can protest, I can say abortion is illegal, I can say blah 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 blah.
I think abortion should be illegal.
That's a topic that.
No, I'm not saying it. I'm saying that's what you mean. You can't say abortion is illegal.
So I can say that I want abortion to be illegal. I can say homosexuality is a sin. And these are not my views. I'm just saying these are the hot topic issues that people can understand better.
Player that said it,
right? So
and
if he says that or if she says that, that's their view. Now, what they cannot do if you are going to get an abortion is to physically prevent you from doing it.
Yeah, true.
Right? But they have a right to voice their opinion.
At the front of the
they can even protest at the front of the clinic.
But they can't stand in your way, not let you enter.
They can't obstruct you.
Yeah.
Now, your feelings might get hurt. For example, silly example, most religious people have this idea of a bastard child. Well, whether a child is a bastard or is not a bastard does not have any physical, real world implications. It's just an idea in your mind that this child was conceived before marriage. Whether the parents are married or not married, if you didn't know in a blind test, they put two children in front of you. One was a bastard and one wasn't. There's no scientific or other way you can find out.
I think it's just name calling.
Yeah, so it's people's emotions get hurt, and they want to then use their political power to force change because I don't like it. You shouldn't do it.
Who's trying to do that? People trying to say you can't call people bastards.
No. I'm saying as an example. So I don't like same-sex marriage, so I think it should be illegal. Well, unless somebody's trying to marry me, wink, wink, then it's got nothing to do with me. Do you know what I mean? Let them do what they want. You don't want to take drugs? Don't take drugs. Now, but drugs causes harm, blah, blah, blah. Mate, produce it, tax it, and if you admitted to hospital for drug use, $1,000 excess.
So hell, this is your little L.
Yeah.
Liberty. What protections does the government give you for this? It's ideology, you said. And secondly, what's big L?
So the protections that you get from the government are minimal. Minimal in the sense that the government will regulate economics, will regulate the military, will regulate taxes and basic laws through the police and provide public services. The government's role is not to regulate thought, communications, lifestyle decisions, whether you want to be a smoker, whether you want to drink alcohol, whether you want to consume drugs. Now, like I said, they can regulate it.
You're like Trump. You know where the camera is at all times, huh?
Yeah, well, you gotta engage with the audience.
You're engaging a lot with the audience. You're doing good.
You see my pretty face all the time.
You're doing good. So what's big L then?
So big L liberal is just our political party having adopted the liberal, I guess, persona to say that, we adopt that ideology. And in some senses they do.
A lot they don't.
Because a lot of it they don't.
COVID.
They
lockdowns.
Pretend,
state government, New South Wales.
So that's the most illiberal policy that they had, but they call themselves.
They should have changed their name on the day that they started those.
The illiberal party.
Yeah, illiberal, literally.
So so that's what it is. And for example, political parties adopt these names because unfortunately people have short memories. There's nothing, well, not nothing, maybe 5% of the Democratic Party in the United States is actually democratic. There's nothing democratic about them. Look at the most recent elections. They just plucked old mate Joe Biden. Then without having a convention or having anything, they pop. But you know what I mean?
For our Australian viewers and for our American viewers that don't know, they can Google it. I don't know when it was, but if I calculate, I remember there was a slogan, Kevin 07. So Kevin Rudd came in 2007. We have 3-year federal elections. I'm guessing it was just before that 3-year mark, around 2009, I believe. We ousted in the caucus, the Labor Party, Federal Labor Party ousted Kevin Rudd, put in Julia Gillard. She then won the election, probably 2010. And then before 2013, or you can call it within 3 years as well. You don't need to do it every 3 years.
Yeah.
They can do an election every year or 6 months if they want.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a minimum, I'm not sure. But then the Labor Party again ousted her, put Kevin Rudd back in. He had a little bit of power for a few months. Then he lost it to, I believe, Malcolm Turnbull.
I think...
No, to Tony Abbott.
Abbott came in, then Turnbull stabbed Abbott.
And then they got in the Liberal caucus, the opposition party came in, Liberal. Then they ousted him and then put Malcolm back in.
Yeah.
And that was when he did the promise of the plebiscite for the gay marriage thing, which is a whole different debate. But what was that? That was like, and then did they oust him and put?
They did.
ScoMo.
I think ScoMo stabbed. What was the other one's name? ScoMo stabbed him in the back.
Yeah.
And it was just a whole lot of Shakespearean backstabbing going on.
5 political.
We had more. I think we had six or
5 or 6 changes in like 7 or 8 years or something.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on the numbers.
But the difference is though, we
very similar.
But no,
socially,
there's a
lot of people were saying. Well, a lot of people were correcting everyone because there was a bit of social uproar about what's going on, and then people were like, well, in Australia we vote the party.
I was just about to say the same thing. You vote for a political party. That's why we have a prime minister. So we vote for a party. The party elects its leader. In America, because they're a republic, they vote for a president. They have the party in their Congress as well, like similar to our parliament, but that's the big difference. So you're not voting for Kevin Rudd, Julia Gillard, Anthony Albanese to be the prime minister, you are voting for the Labour Party and they can elect. And that's a big issue because a lot of people don't understand that very basic tenet of our democratic system. And the other issue is a lot of people don't want to become a republic. Now, I absolutely despise any sort of monarchy. Iran was a monarchy about 48 years ago.
When did you come to Australia?
2003.
So I was in grade 9. No, I was in grade... I think it was when John Howard was in. I think in 1996.
I think it was around the time black and white TVs came out, wasn't it?
Look at this guy. I think 1996, or something's telling me 1999. But anyway, it was mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
We had a, what's the word called?
Referendum?
Referendum.
Yeah.
To see if we wanted to become a republic. But most people voted no.
Because they have no clue.
They didn't like the system of the referendum. No, the way they had written it was for the prime minister to still get elected and then appoint a president. It was coined a puppet president.
So,
and no one came forward with a Bill of Rights or any...
And that's the biggest
inherent right, which is what you said, implied right. Is it inherent?
Inherent rights.
Explicit or inherent right, like the fellow American friends have.
This is the funny thing as well, right? In America, a lot of people think they're a democracy. America is not a democracy. America is a constitutional republic. A democracy in its purest form is majority rule.
That's a made-up word almost, isn't it? Democratic system.
No, look,
it means majority rules. Majority rules all the time on any vote.
So
in any country.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well, not in America. See?
Oh, because of populist vote.
Because they have the electoral college.
But we have something similar too. You could win in Australia majority votes, but not win the election because they won majority states. Isn't that the same? Similar?
It's a little bit similar and it's a little bit different. So basically, on a straight popular vote, the whole country votes, and whichever party or per individual gets the most amount of votes, they get to rule. So I use America as an example. If America was a straight up popular vote system, you'd have two states like California and New York deciding for the other 48 states, because by population, they could always outvote the rest of the country, right? So their system is the electoral college, which each state, based on its population, gets a number of electors. And people vote in each state.
That's still similar though.
Yeah, but it avoids the popular
There's more
rule.
balance. There's more balance.
And the whole idea of the American system and having a Bill of Rights is that despite what the majority want, and the rights of the individual has to be protected.
And when they wrote the whole Bill of Rights and set up their republic, what, about 250 years ago or something?
Yeah, about 190 years ago.
California wasn't even populated because it wasn't that part of the whole Wild Wild West era. I don't know if that was after, but it wasn't as heavily populated.
No, it was. The
slowest American population was on the East Coast.
They only started with, I think, 10 or 12 states, the United States of America, and slowly.
You know a lot about America.
Like I've just read,
I didn't know there was 12 states, but
originally when they first started, it was just the East Coast. There was like 6-7 states that were colonized.
New York would have been one of the main ones, right?
Yeah.
I learned from that movie, Gangs of New York. Great movie.
Yeah. So
Daniel Day-Lewis, what an actor.
And that's the problem. People not being, and this goes back to people not being involved in politics. They don't understand. They might look at the news of how things happen in Europe or happen in America, and they think, oh, it applies here. Just another quick point. So people don't understand. And
I want to wrap up politics, and I'm getting a headache. I want to go to fun stuff.
Just this one point. There are some countries that have both a president and a prime minister.
Yeah, Lebanon.
Right? Lebanon. I'm pretty sure France does. Israel does. So what happens is in countries like that, the president deals with...
We said we're not going to say the I word.
No, just as a matter of, political system.
Trying not to get demonetized before monetized.
So they have a president and a prime minister. The president deals with foreign affairs exclusively. The prime minister deals with internal affairs.
Is that how they split it?
That's how it's split. So there's a variety of different political systems and political systems. And we just need to be mindful of what system we have, what system we want, and what we are operating in.
Yeah, for sure.
And
so long story short
just to wrap
it up, because we just went like that. long story short is the more you learn, the more power you have.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah, knowledge is power.
That's it.
We taught you guys the legal problem solving skills, IRAC.
Yeah.
We also taught you guys some basic differences between little L, big L.
Yep.
Which is a little bit more of ideology, philosophy of human rights and liberties.
Yep.
Versus in Australia, the government, the big L, or political party. We also shared some differences between
Some
the American system and the Australian system. But, you know, this guy here on my left, on screen on the right.
Did you just assume my gender in 2024?
Shut up. He loves politics. I try to stay out of it as much as I can, but I am a little bit politically geared. I believe most people from West Asia are politically geared because our parents flee for a better life and instill all this human rights knowledge into us.
We're more sensitive to these little nuances in governance in general.
Exactly. So even when we try not to be political, like me, you still have some form of philosophical political connection.
Yeah.
So through the podcast, we'll probably always double on politics, and depending on the third person that we have or other guests, we might, talk about other things. But this became heavily about politics. I want to bring it back to. I don't want to go back into Starlink or Neuralink, but I want to talk about CCTV, a little bit politics, a little bit more ideological thinking, and then I want to talk a bit about business.
Yeah,
a couple of things that we can give some actual practical tips to our audience about business structures, ABN benefits, and whatnot. So what do you think about CCTV? Before you start, I just want to make a statement, share a story, and then ask a question.
Tell me.
So statement, is Sydney feels severely more safe in 2024 than it did when I was 18, 21 years ago, 2003. Right?
Yeah.
Fuck, does that sound old?
No, I'm laughing because of just the thought that came to me, and I'll tell you what the thought is.
Okay, you need a pad and pen and write it down like me. So it feels a lot safer. Okay. The question I want to pose is, why is Sydney so safe? Could it be because of the CCTV, or is it a cultural factor? And I could debate both stories, and I'll get you to comment on that. But I want to share a story.
Yeah.
When I was backpacking through Europe, probably in my mid-20s, 13, 14 years ago, I was staying in East Berlin at a really cool backpacker place. Shout out to, I don't know what's called, like Wombat Backpackers or something. It had a fun name like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact name, but it was really good, clean, good services, really friendly people. And we were hanging out at the front. We were sharing a Scooby-Doo at the front with some French guys. They were around my age, but they were just finishing their medical journey. And were interns, I believe, in hospital in France, in Paris. We're about to become doctors. And it was like 11:30 on a weeknight. I said, I'm hungry. I don't believe Uber Eats or anything like that was around then. I said, I'm going to go get a kebab. Do you guys want to come? They said, nah, we're fine. We've already eaten. I said, I don't know if it's safe. They go, I go, I walked around earlier and there's no CCTV cameras anywhere.
Yeah.
And then they full had like a light bulb moment. They go to me, what'd you say? I repeated my statement. They go, so you believe, how do French people talk? So you believe, I don't know how their accent. So you believe that the CCTV camera will make you more safe? I said, yeah, isn't that the case? And they said, why do you think that? I said, I don't know, just in Sydney, we have CCTV cameras everywhere and it feels like quite a safe society. I was concerned that there's nothing, to hold anyone account afterwards. They said, in France, we have hardly any CCTV. I don't know now what the situation is in the last 10, 15 years, how much more CCTV they have, but I believe there's still a bit more anti-CCTV, Big Brother watching them as much as we would be open to it in Australia, which is quite a Big Brother state. And they went on to say that if someone's crazy and wants to hurt you, usually they won't be thinking about the repercussions anyway. So all the CCTV would do would, at best case scenario, find them and hold them accountable or be used as evidence. But it won't stop you from getting hurt. And I said, fair enough, interesting, but wouldn't also collectively the society, knowing that you can't do random acts of violence, not trying to kill me and be a psycho, but not be a psycho and just be a rough person, or be a hateful person or have negative energy and just push me over and just roll me and be able to do that 5 blocks in one night and not care because I think I thought that in my brain. I didn't ask them that. They didn't reply. So I've made my statement. I've asked my question. I've shared a story. What do you think about this?
They were
baffled. They go, no, we're against it.
The reason I chuckled when you said, why is Sydney feel safer? I think one of the big reasons is, this is just my theory, economics. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
I've heard that.
You think about
doing
Western
better economically.
Well,
it does generate a safer society.
Yes, but my thought was in reverse, because it has become so extremely expensive to live in Sydney. So, this is an overgeneralization, I accept, but you have the Western Sydney suburbs, which are socio-economically disadvantaged. You used to hear about Auburn, Campbelltown, Bankstown.
I grew up out hardcore west, near Mount Druitt.
Right.
And it was so dangerous when I was young. It was pretty nice now, I'll be honest with you.
Of course, because it's $1 million house.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you were able to, you had like little mini ghettos, again, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
People were able to, if you were slinging a little bit of dope and selling a little bit of drugs, you could still afford your little house here or there, or a shared house. Nowadays, you have people earning 6-figure salaries, struggling to pay their rent and make ends meet, right? So because of that, you start to push out the undesirables, as Hillary Clinton likes to call them, further and further out. And because of that, because Sydney, there's still a lot of people who are well paid and who are quite rich who occupy the city. So it doesn't turn into a slum. I think that's one of the reasons, that because things have become so expensive,
I agree with that.
People have been pushed out further and further out.
I don't think violence is any more or even equal. I think if we were to look at it, it'd probably be less. So our friends that still live out west and they don't feel unsafe.
So there's that. There is obviously, I think, a generational shift as well.
Away from alcohol too, maybe alcohol.
Away from alcohol, away from just...
Because, we've had in Sydney, for those that are...
Honestly, I think people interacting with each other. I remember when I was a youth, when I was in high school, for example, I used to go to Castle High. Every night, Thursday night, everybody would gather in front of the shopping centre. After my generation,
there was always fights.
It's done. You don't see any of the youngins out and about.
So technology has something to do with it as well.
100%, because people aren't going out. People aren't going out. They aren't congregating in groups anymore. 10, 15 years ago, you'd have a group of boys get together. Now, they might become hooligans because there's nothing to do. They want to go out to the park and they're just together. Oh, let's be funny and go, I don't know, spray paint this car, egg this person's house, as a small, benign thing, right? And then they get a little bit older and then they start shoplifting or doing this or doing that. But because people are so glued to their devices that they're not going out, they're not interacting, I think that has an impact on the fact that people are out and about less, which then necessarily means they'll be less engaged in that, in that sort of...
Less chance
of them doing it. But then again, and the reason I said the cultural and economics...
Drinking too. We've had a whole shift away from drink culture, which was all about the New South Wales lockdown laws.
The one punch, the king hit, lockdowns.
2013, 14, 15 from memory. And also the legislation with one punch knockdown laws, and there was TV ads about it. I remember one of those Aussie boxers had one. You're a coward if you do a coward punch. They started coining a social term for it. So people are a bit more mindful that far out. Like if I just get into a fight and jab someone, they might hit their head on the pavement, and I might be in prison for the majority of my life.
To get back to your original point about CCTV cameras specifically.
So it might not be that. It might be the cultural thing that we see.
Yeah, look, it does play a role.
People being at home on technology more.
I think.
Also, don't forget the phrase I said before, the quote: "Give them food and entertainment, and you control them."
I mean, most people, the young generation, are too busy, caught up on TikTok and this and that to be out there, causing a ruckus. But just with respect to CCTV footage as I guess, a factor, it is true. So there's two ways that government generally enforces law. And I'm not going to get into politics. This is just a system of how society works. There is hard laws, and there's hard enforcement and soft enforcement. So your hard enforcement is visible policing, jail, fines, threats of things like that. Your soft enforcement is, for example, they tell you the death toll has increased, and I remember this ad vividly. And it's like, how many people do you think is enough to die a year? 30 people, 50
Death toll
people?
as in car accident
As in
tolls?
car accidents
Yeah,
and things
car
like that,
accident
right?
deaths.
And it's like, oh, let's say 100 people, right? And it's one person talking. And then out of a cutscene, 100 people, 150 people come onto the screen, old, young.
Ooh.
And it's like, do
From
you
a
think
marketing
like
perspective,
the hair
which is
on my hand is just
expertise,
standing up, just remembering
that's
that ad.
clever. That's clever.
It gives you the idea, oh shit, that could be my grandmother, that could be my cousin, that
and
could
in
be
the
my
ad, did
niece.
they have different people, shapes and sizes and
Yeah,
colors and creed?
Exactly. And it's like, do you think this
So
many
people can
people
relate.
dying every year is, so it's a
Acceptable.
soft enforcement. It works on your emotions and your
Yeah.
psyche. So the same thing with CCTV. Most people generally, like just how you have crimes of opportunity. If, there's $100 just sitting here and there's nobody around, I'm more likely to take it.
And not
right?
just CCTV,
But if
dash
100
cams, everything.
Yeah, and
cameras,
just the
surveillance,
idea of surveillance and being caught, right? Whereas if the $100 was just in a glass box, most people wouldn't break the glass box to take it.
Yeah.
But if it was in that same glass container with the lid wide open, most people are like, oh, well, I just...
And what if it had a post-it note on it that said, take me?
Well, if I had a post-it note on me, that's it. R18. So I think that definitely plays a role, that because there is that enforcement of, well, people don't want to get caught. And on top of that, the advent of
What is advent
technology,
mean?
the increase, the popularity of social media and your camera phone.
Yeah,
Because
everyone's a journalist.
the issue isn't just now you ending up on CCTV footage, some grainy, 24 pixel footage. It's there in HD, and you are going to be plastered all over the world. So people are concerned about, it's not me just pushing somebody over and then, getting a Section 10 or a community service. Someone's going to post that. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to be shunned at school. Society will know me.
shame.
Social
Let's just call it
shame.
social shame. So I got a story. One of our relatives, my partner's relatives, lives in an area which is pretty nice these days, but traditionally was a little bit more low socioeconomic with a lot of public housing.
Yeah.
But it's becoming gentrified and changing over time. However, there's still some pockets of glimpses of what I remember it from the past.
Yeah.
With a bit of petty crime, perhaps. Her partner or friend left his laptop bag outside, ran in to help her do something for like 60 seconds, came back, laptop bag was gone.
Mm-hmm.
They called the cops. Cops didn't show. Made several complaints to cops. They didn't care. They didn't even come out for a statement.
Yeah.
Which is a different debate altogether. However, the neighbor gave them CCTV footage, a few different neighbors, of the people grabbing the bag and running off. They then found a community Facebook group of that suburb area, posted saying, have you seen these people? They stole our laptop bag, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Within hours, there was a man and a woman, one of the culprits, I think the female one, messaged this relative of mine and said, hey, my name's so-and-so, I'm so sorry I took your bag. We just thought it was rubbish that was left out there. Yeah. We're happy to give it back to you. Can you please remove that from social media page? Because it was the community page for their area.
People power.
And they were shamed. And I thought, far out. The cops aren't doing anything, but they are. So the people power. So I was impressed with social media from that perspective, but also disappointed with the cops that they didn't care.
Yeah, I mean, look.
And they cared more when we were younger, when it was higher factors of issues and it was happening more. So that's a bit strange why they don't care. In America, you see in LA, there was all these smash and grabs at Versace sushi, not sushi, Versace Gucci stores and all that. And I don't know if we've also decriminalized a lot of the petty crime.
Look, it's not that we've decriminalized it. I think
you get a lot bit more warnings, because when I was a 14-year-old kid, theft or larceny was a big deal.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Social change, back in the day, more people were doing it. It was more prevalent because in the justice system, when you are getting sentenced, almost every magistrate or judge will refer to specific deterrent and general deterrent. Specific deterrent being you being deterred from doing the same act again.
You specifically.
And general deterrent is the wider public seeing, oh shit, if I shoplift this, I'm going to get the book thrown at me.
That's making an example of you. I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm against that ethically.
But
I think you got to go specific.
I mean, so there's a lot to be said for both.
But I kind of
But
see why they do
I
it.
think that's why. So, for example, like I said, if people are doing a crime less and less and less, the need for general deterrence becomes less and less and less because people aren't doing it as often. So it's more important to deter you as an individual. But if it's something that's happening all the time, like
So
for
that's why it could be
example,
a slap on the wrist.
yeah. So for example, now they have heavily increased the fines for drink driving, right? Now, if you are
And speeding. Before
And
you have to
speeding.
go 60 k's over when I
Yeah.
was younger to lose it on the spot. I think now over 40 k's you lose it on the spot.
over 40k, you lose it on the spot. If you return a positive reading for drink driving, you are suspended roadside. That's it. No ifs, no buts. So if you're above 0.05, you get suspended roadside. A couple of years ago, it wasn't like that. And now they've introduced mandatory sentencing. So even if you go to the court, unless the court dismisses the charge or deals with it by way of no conviction, you will lose your license. The court cannot take that away.
So
Because
guilty
it's
no
become-
convictions referred to on the street or
As generally it's section 10, right? So if you get a section 10, then you avoid having that penalty. Short of that, you will lose your license. It's mandatory. It's in the legislation. The courts cannot take that away.
What is that?
Well, because people
No,
have
not why. What is it? Punishment. Have you
so
memorized
for low range, you lose it for 3 months.
Well, explain low range.
So
Between
low range
0.05.
is 0.05 to 0.79. Mid range is 0.8 to 1.09,
Yeah.
and then anything above that is high range.
So
And
what
the
are
penalties
the penalties?
start from 3 months suspension, 6 months suspension, 12 months suspension.
Any prison?
And for for first offense, it's
You get a walk.
2 years, and I think 3
So
years.
you get 2 years in prison?
Even for a first offense, yeah,
No, you can.
you
get
can. You don't generally get it, but you can get
You
it.
got to
Um,
show that you're a good character.
yeah,
all of
and
this.
there is a mandatory 24-month interlock program now. If you get done for drink
What's
driving,
that? Where you have to blow.
you have to blow into the
to
device
start your car.
to start your car.
You know what? I always said if they actually wanted to reduce fatalities on the road and get rid of drink driving, why don't they just install one of those on everything?
It
on
costs a
all
lot
cars.
to maintain them. It costs
Okay.
a lot. It
That
will
makes
probably cost you 5-6 grand.
I'm
a
against
year.
them doing that ethically anyway, because then you're saying I'm guilty to proven innocent.
Yeah.
But in such a law-abiding society, I don't know how far off we are.
Funny
But now
that
that you
just
say
one
that's
thought about the guilty until proven innocent. There is two general positions with law. One set of people say better 100 guilty people walk free than one innocent person
Incarcerated.
be incarcerated. Then there's the flip side of it that say better 100 innocent people get punished or get incarcerated than one guilty person walk free.
If you vote for the latter, stop viewing our channel,
Yeah,
man, and our page.
Because
you're not going to like our stance.
unsubscribe.
Right now, see you later.
So it's for a society like that. I mean,
That's like when you got a bank terrorist situation, hostage, you go in there, kill all. I remember one time there was a hostage situation when I was a
Lindt
bit younger,
Cafe?
not that one, but in Russia, where they went and they just wiped everyone out, and then you kill all innocent people. It was in a school.
Yeah.
But it was like some hardcore terrorists.
that's the latter
I forget
ideology.
which
Better,
area from Russia.
better that we wipe everybody out.
Chechen, I think.
Probably, yeah. Those guys are a
And then
little bit stir crazy.
We had the Lindt one. Didn't we recently have a royal commission that finished on the Lindt one,
Yeah.
or an in government inquiry of some kind? I don't know what the update of that was, but that was also not dealt with.
Yeah. Well,
Did they die? Anyone in Lindt?
yeah. I think one person died. 2 people got injured. All by the boys in the blue. Now I'm not going to pass judgment one
Never
way or
mind, because we
another.
don't know enough about it. But all I'm going to
But
say
it's
is
just like
personally,
these things happen, right? So
personally, I don't agree with one innocent person being
Yeah.
wronged.
yeah. So
I don't like that 99 or 1 and because at the same time, I don't want 99 guilty people to go free for the shit. It is a dilemma.
it's
eh?
and the dilemma comes in because the law isn't perfect, right? So, for example, you have rules of evidence, you have beyond a reasonable doubt, you have a jury of your peers. Because on one hand, people say this idea, which I absolutely hate, and if I hear you say it, I don't want to know you, I don't have anything to do with you. If you've done
Delete,
nothing
block.
wrong, you have nothing to worry about.
People say that about privacy laws with our phones being monitored and tapped all the time. And I always say to them in reply, well, why does every household or every home, because it's not always a house, but a unit, whatever, why does every home, every bedroom have curtains? You're not always doing stuff wrong.
Yeah.
You are entitled to privacy. So you are entitled to rights without doing stuff wrong.
Because if that was the case,
Again,
if we were all law-abiding citizens and nobody can sit there and tell me that you have not broken the law intentionally, you cannot tell me in good conscience that at 3 a.m. when you're cruising and you see the speed sign posted 110, that you're not going to do 120. But if you have the idea of, if you've done nothing wrong, then you should go hand yourself in and ask the police to take points off your license. We all break the law. We all bend the rules. Legality is not the same as morality.
Do it too.
And sometimes we do it unintentionally, right? In a perfect world, in a perfect society, yes, everything should be above board, because if you do a crime, you should get punished for it. You know what I mean? This goes back to the technology with advances that we have. If there weren't people that were going to use it for their own benefit, let's record everything. Let's everybody have everything above board, no problems. But we know that that's not the case. If we had enough freedoms,
too much power concentrated within any entity,
absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
Not my quote, but
I've used that quote so many times. I love it. Absolute power
corrupts absolutely. So,
isn't it absolute power absolutely corrupts? Absolutely.
I don't know.
Something like
it's
that.
Some variation of that.
Where we got it 80-90% correct. And that's the dangerous slippery slope that we go down when there's too much concentrated power in any entity. Whether it's a government entity, whether it's a private sector entity, whatever it is. But
and just
we've
one
done
point on this.
Just one point on this. Let's talk a little bit about business.
People just need to be kinder to each other.
Yeah.
If we as a society were just a little bit kinder to each other and a little bit more considerate and empathetic, the world will be a better place. You do not need the law or some force to tell you to be kind and to be a bit considerate. You do not need the law to tell you have to give way to somebody indicating to change lanes. Just do it.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 cars getting in front of you, you're not going to get there. You're not racing in the Olympics for a gold medal.
I was involved in a car accident recently and I wasn't at fault. And the individual was like all nervous and apologetic. And I said, like, I'm okay. Are you okay? And they said, yeah. I said, well, that's all that matters. The rest is just plastic. I said, at the end of the day, metal and plastic. I said, at the end of the day, it's called an accident for a reason. Otherwise,
it's not like that person intentionally just, you know what? That's that fish guy on the podcast. I'm going to ram his car.
Yeah, I said, they didn't call it on purpose. And they said, I love the way you worded that. I said, yeah, it's called an accident. Let's not forget that. You didn't do it on purpose. Let's exchange details and go along our merry way. And that's the thing. The other day I was talking to a friend as well, and they were saying, so-and-so is fucked, is dodgy, is this, is that. I said, maybe they're not that word. Maybe they just had that word moment
attributed to them.
Yeah,
or
maybe they're not a bad person. Maybe they're a good person that had a bad moment. Yeah. And I've started subscribing to the belief system that
maybe they're a bad person who has good moments.
Yeah, well, that's a different debate, right? Are we born inherently good or bad? You can argue
nurture versus nature.
I could debate both, because kids can say, you're selfish, they push each other when they're 2 years old in the past, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. However, I think there's a lot of good, positive energy, God energy, devil energy, whatever you want to call it. And we get tainted in the nature, not the nurture part. Because at the end of the day, I think like, that guy's a fuckwit in beeping road rage. No, the guy's not a fuckwit. He just didn't notice you. Just relax. And you could be him too. And you could also make mistakes. Yeah. You know?
And imagine the amount of people that feel the same way about you.
Even
and
if someone's
just
drunk and had a fight with you.
A little bit of just calm down.
You don't know what that person went through.
Struggling. We're all going through so much in our lives that just take a step back. They are somebody's mom, dad, uncle, auntie, cousin.
Especially in workplace, if someone writes you an email.
Yeah.
I always say, reply your email and then don't send it. Remove the to address so you don't accidentally send it, and then let it sit in your drafts. Go do something, have a walk, have a sandwich, have some water, coffee, go to the toilet, come back even half an hour later, an hour later, reread it, and you won't feel all that emotional angst towards half the shit you wrote. Just take it easy.
Yeah.
I used to in the business world draft so many emails I wouldn't send, because it just becomes combative.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, let me reread what they wrote. Oh, when they said XYZ, they didn't mean it in the tone that I construed it as, because I went in there with some preconceived notions about how I felt about the person.
Yeah.
And sometimes what we think about someone else is a reflection on how we fail to recognize how we feel about ourselves.
Yeah.
So we should look in the mirror
100%.
more, you know?
Yeah.
Like that Michael Jackson song, look in the mirror. I wanted to talk a little bit about the last topic, which is ABNs. We didn't get to talk too much about Trump's election landscape.
That one,
We
yeah,
can
that
talk
one's
about
a
next
good one.
time.
We'll talk about that next. We did enough about politics on this podcast.
But yeah, I think just when we ended up on a good note, all I want to say is we'll give a bit more business advice not advice. Actually, nothing we say is advice. This channel is actually, pardon me, I retract that. It's for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah. It's just for general knowledge, for you guys to pique your interest, and
entertainment.
That's it.
Yeah,
always seek your independent legal, financial, and medical advice with respect to anything you hear on this
We
podcast.
are not giving advice ever and never will in any episode.
The only type of advice we will give is relationship advice, but that's for a whole different story.
Yeah, and he's kidding. But yeah, regarding ABNs, I recommend people have an ABN and start a side hustle. So then they can actually enter the business entrepreneurial space and build some wealth for themselves while they're running whatever other lifestyle that they got involved, and slowly take their life to the next level.
I agree.
And I just wanted to share the difference between a sole trader and a proprietary limited. Can you give us a brief example of it? And then they should do their own research, get their own independent advice.
So in a nutshell, a sole trader is when you get an ABN as a sole trader, an ABN being an Australian business number, that is a number attributed to you as an individual, right? As a business, as a sole trader. You can operate in your own name, or you can register a business name to that ABN. Now, most businesses that are your mom and pop shop, that is your little corner store, or you have some arts and crafts that you want to sell, people will just register a business name, register for an ABN, and operate under their own name. They are the owner. They are liable for basically all the debts and liabilities.
Personally liable. That's the key distinction between sole trader.
The key distinction is personal liability. So if you commit a breach of contract and you get sued, and the person sues you and they're successful in court and they get a judgment against you, they can basically recover the money from you, from your personal funds, bank accounts, assets. If you have a house, depending on the amount of judgment, they can basically force you to sell your house and pay that amount. Now, being a sole trader offers a little bit more flexibility. There's less fees, less stringent.
If you're earning less than, I think, 75,
you don't have to register for a GST. You don't have to do the account. You don't have to do BAS and things like that. So there's a little bit less stringent accounting requirements and regulations. Then you go into a business, so an incorporated company. When you incorporate a company is basically its own separate legal entity. And that's the key word here, separate legal entity. So it is basically a legal fiction. It is a legal person. So your company is its own person, its own rights. It can sue in its own name. It can be sued. It can enter into contracts, so on and so forth. The reason a lot of people open businesses is because they provide companies.
Because they're all businesses.
Yes, that's right. It provides you a layer of asset protection, because if the company gets sued, and the company is liable to pay the debts. So if the company has a car, it has some office furniture, it has some money in the bank account, the judgment creditor, which is the person whose judgment is made in favor of, can try to claw back those assets.
If something goes wrong and you have
you get sued,
you're
or
being liquidated, going to receivership.
You enter a contract for a service with suppliers, whatever the case might be. You can't afford to pay. You breach the contract.
Or you're charging someone and you do a fuck up.
Yeah, or
they sue you,
or you get sued
for damages.
So that's one of the main benefits of having a company.
Because if you have your own home, they can't come and grab you in your family's house.
That's right. Whatever the company has,
it's just limited to the shell of the company.
Back. Now, there are some instances when people enter into contract, and this is very important, not legal advice, but it's a very important point to note, that depending on personal guarantee. So if you give a director's guarantee on any contract that you enter,
it nullifies that limited
the whole shield that you get from having a company. because then you have to basically perform the company's obligation.
Shield, not the whole parameter, because there's other benefits of company. Because
It's just with respect to the
have
limited liability.
different, you can give
So-
different equity. You can have a board
Yeah.
of directors. There's a whole another world of reasons you would do a company. But
Yeah.
when we're talking about limited liability, the shield is removed, and now you've personally guarantored.
that you will basically perform the company's
Yeah.
obligations if it fails to do it, or cover its liabilities and pay whatever it needs to pay if
So
it
just
doesn't.
avoid personal guarantors if you register a company to have a bit of a shield of protection. That's
Yeah.
what I think is logical.
That's right. And
no advice. Just,
as a director as well, you have director's responsibilities, which are
and
civil
they've increased
liabilities,
those over the last
and
couple
criminal
of years.
penalties as well. And one of the biggest differences between a company and a sole trader is that as a sole trader, you can run up as much debt as you want, and if you can't pay, well, you can't pay. All right, that's fine. But as a company, you have an obligation to avoid insolvent trading.
Yeah, which is a
And
criminal offense. So that's
It's
the
a
negative.
criminal and civil
But
offense.
with sole trader, it's not.
Sole
And then if
trader,
you've got
no.
no assets, they put you into bankruptcy.
They basically,
and
yeah,
that's it.
they can do that. So as a
Okay.
company, your liquidity is not based on how much assets you have. People have this mistaken idea that if my company has, $1 million worth of products, that I'm liquid. No. One of the tests is your debt to credit ratio, which at least has to be 1-to-1. So for every dollar of debt that you have, you should have $1 of assets. But the other main operative one is, are you able to pay your debts as and when they fall due? And if you cannot pay your debts as and when they fall
Equity
due,
cash flow issue.
cash flow, that's the important thing. And if you don't have cash, now, if, for example, your company doesn't make enough money this time around, you can always do a director's cash injection, and that's totally fine.
Owner's equity
But you
contribution.
need
as an
to
accountant would
pay
call
the
it.
debts as and when they fall due, because if you don't, that's an indicator of insolvency. Not in and of itself, but it's a big indicator. And if you are insolvent trading and the company can't pay its debts, you've entered into too many contracts, blah, blah, blah.
However, that's usually if shit hits the fan, because it's not like anyone's trying to get you for
Yeah.
insolvency.
It basically becomes an issue when somebody sues you, you don't pay,
or if you're
and
behind
a
on your
liquidator,
ATO.
and a liquidator is appointed, and the liquidator goes through all the company's records and realizes, the company was not earning enough money 6 months ago to be operating. Why have you been operating it for this amount?
I think intent's looked at too, so it's not too
Intensely,
black and
yeah.
white.
The other thing is as well, one other
You can always have
pitfall-
hope that you're about to land a contract, though. You have to
you
plead
can,
your case.
but it's not a defense.
Okay.
So you cannot, in the hopes of landing a contract, you should still be able to cover the debts that you have as and when they fall due. Now, if you have certain assets, or if you negotiate, so for example, you can negotiate with your creditor, hey, can I have a payment extension? That's fine. They're not going to say, you're insolvent, because you've got that extension to pay.
Yeah.
But if you don't pay and you are unable to pay, that's when you get into trouble. The other very important point about a company being its own separate legal entity is that the company's bank accounts are not your bank accounts.
Oh yeah.
The company's
Get
car
bookkeeping in order.
is not your car.
Yeah.
Just because most people do it, your
Just because
mom,
you're
your
the
dad, your
sole
uncle,
director.
auntie, yeah. I'm going to go do my grocery shopping on the company credit card. Or the company has 20 grand profit, I'm going to withdraw that and buy myself a car. Well, I was the one who works for the company. No.
You could do it if you paid yourself a wage. You can structure it in a way
Yeah,
to
you can
make
take
it
a director's
legitimate.
fee, you can take, get paid dividends, whatever, but it is not just because you own the company, you don't own the assets, right? So the best way I can
And you
explain
don't actually
it
own the company. You own the shares in the company.
in the company, yeah.
And usually
you are a controlling mind behind the company, you are not its owner.
it's its own entity.
It's its
You
own
can't
person.
own it. But usually if one guy wants to go open up a cafe, okay, small cafe, little hole in the wall, and he sets up a company, most likely he'll be the sole director
and secretary.
the one and the secretary. I was going to say Secretary of State. Elections, US elections. He'll be the sole director and secretary, which is responsible for all the paperwork and that with ASIC, ATO, all that stuff.
Yep.
And he'll be the 100%
Shareholder.
sole shareholder, but he's still not the owner,
That's
quote
right.
unquote.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people fall in this pitfall where They use the company's money, company's profits
You
to
can't
buy
just go on
themselves a
holiday
car
with your
and
family.
go on holidays and things like
You
that.
can buy a company car and utilize it.
You can, but
to
when,
still
when,
go
but,
home.
when, but when they sell the company car, they put the money and put it in their own bank
Is that
account.
what some people do? Wow.
Yeah, because they think, well, it's my company, it's a private company, it's my money.
Oh yeah, they
Well,
convolute it.
If the company in its proper channel gives you that money, there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
it. But you can't just take it and not put it down as director's fees, as a salary,
Mhm.
because then you got to pay the tax on it. You know, there's all these implications. There's nothing wrong with you taking the company's profits and all of it, as long as it is paid to you in the proper channel. So that's
But if you
that's
guys
a
want
pitfall.
advice,
If you want advice,
Imperial Legal, we take your case personally.
yes. So come in, pop in for a chat.
I offer consultation for anyone wanting to buy an existing business or set up a business from scratch. I do most of the work regarding not corporate structure or anything, but in terms of how to structure your process,
Yep.
what comes first, your mindset, business plans,
Basically, you come and see our friend,
lingo,
good friend
business
here,
lingo, business
Fish.
acumen.
You set up. He will have discuss with you, give you some consultancy, some advice on to how approach your business, what you need to do, set up a business plan with you, the pitfalls, the
No
advantages,
advice. I never give advice.
And we'll have
I
a
empower
discussion
you
with
with
you.
knowledge and you make the
Yeah.
determination.
And once you are happy with that, you pop into my office. We'll set everything up for you, register it, get all the legal side. Then you go back to our good friend here to set up your marketing plan, your
We'll help you with
websites, your
with
logos.
t-shirt printing,
It's almost a
with
one-stop shop.
signage, with catalogs, with brochures.
Basically, a good starter package
With
to
websites.
kickstart your new career goals
Yeah,
or your side hustle, as may be the case.
yeah. And we love to help as much as we can. It's all about giving back in the world. And yeah, the money is just really a byproduct of us just loving to deal with people and helping others better their lives through business.
Yeah, look, everybody works to earn an income. Everybody works to better themselves, but at the same time, you can always take that 1 or 2 extra steps to help people who are in need. Put some good out in the universe, and you know it almost always comes back to you. As they say, no good deed goes unanswered.
So I had a whole bunch of points we didn't go through, but we've done over an hour and a half. So I
yeah,
reckon
we can
wrap it up
come
here,
back
and we can cover these on episode 2.
Yeah,
We'll definitely upload episode 1 very soon. What's the date? We should have said the
today
date.
is the 15th of November 2024.
We're going to try to get this up over the next couple of days. We're officially calling this episode 1 video episode.
Yep.
And hopefully we can do a second episode where we talk a little bit about spirituality, mindfulness, happiness, goal settings.
Power of Now.
Power of
Old mate
Now, Power
Eckhart
of
Tolle.
Subconscious Mind. We love Eckhart Tolle. He's great. And we'll, have a little fun chats and banter and try to actually have some guests.
And we'll have some guests. We were meant to have another guest join us today.
but I kind of like that it didn't happen.
Yeah,
for our
it
first
sort of
episode,
worked
even though
out well for us to get in the groove.
We love
and to-
Ennis. The gentleman's name's Ennis. We love him. He's a great character. And he's a legal colleague of Sohail. So he brings another element of knowledge. And he really hones in on his specialty of criminal law.
Criminal
so he
law,
could delve really into that. And we could ask him
And that's
more
something we
about
need to
that.
for our especially our New South Wales viewers. Just your basic understanding of your legal rights, the criminal justice process in New South Wales.
Just so you feel comfortable with it.
And yeah, just
We'll get
for
him
you-
on, maybe on in a couple of episodes' time, depending on
Definitely,
his
yeah.
schedule. He's quite busy, usually in and out of court and running his own business, doing whatever he's doing with his life.
That's right.
But I like that the first episode was us. I just want to say thanks, man.
Thank you very much, and thank you guys for watching us.
Yeah. Great first episode, man. That was awesome.
It was.
Yeah, well done.
I like it.
I just feel like we're flowing well together, and each episode will get better and better
Yeah.
about when to talk, when not to talk. Like sometimes I don't want to cut you off, but I know that I'll forget the idea.
Yeah. No,
And
but
we
I
went
want to
off
bring
on
it back.
tangents.
Yeah.
If you write in
It's
tangents,
good because it just gets you going from
Yeah.
now. It gets you comfortable to talk and just
also, I got to look at the volume of the microphone. Are we yelling? I don't know. But when I post it, I
Oh,
can
definitely,
turn it down.
definitely
But we
adjust
did
it.
well, man. That was
We
great.
did.
I feel good,
I'd be
natural
keen
high.
to I'd be keen to see how this one turned out.